What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Sector for Nerds. I'm Ryan Brower, and today we are here to talk about the final issue of the Son of Dathomir comic. But before we do that, you guys, make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I would love to become a full-time YouTuber someday, but I cannot do it without your support. So please subscribe if you haven't already. It's free, it doesn't cost you anything, and it really helps to support my channel. Thank you, guys. All right, so let's start talking about this issue of the Son of Dathomir comic. This is by far the darkest part of this comic because a lot happens. And so we start out with Maul and Dooku on board a gauntlet ship, and the crime families are chatting with Maul, and they're upset because it's like, you know, we were supposed to get stuff out of this, but instead of gaining stuff, we're losing it. Like, we lost the base on Zanbar, we lost Ord Mantell, we lost the Mandalorian base in the asteroid field. It's like, all we're doing is losing, which, you know what, you kind of think about it, it's like, you know what, they do have a good point. All Maul has been doing lately has been losing. I mean, apart from the fact that he was able to capture both Dooku and Grievous. And speaking of which, remember that alliance between Maul and Dooku in the last issue of the comic? Yeah, that was short-lived because Maul just betrayed him. Granted, it's because he kind of figured like, okay, like this was all by design of Sidious. He wanted us to align together, so he's like, all right, I'm not gonna let Sidious get away with this. They take Dooku to Dathomir, where they find Brother Vicious and the Night Brothers, and they go to this temple with like this massive stone in the middle, and Maul starts like talking to it, like as if, you know, he's talking to his mother. And then it's like they're going to use Dooku as like a vessel for Talzin to sort of be resurrected. Interesting enough, we see Sidious and Grievous on a Sith infiltrator ship, which is something that Maul used to have, believe it or not. Maul ends up taunting Dooku, and he's like, you know, talking about how he's gonna fail, like your blood's gonna be spilt and stuff like that. And all of a sudden there's an explosion in that temple, and then Grievous walks in, and then Sidious walks in, and I'm just like, oh shit, here we go. And Sidious says, no matter how many times you fail, you never learn this lesson, Maul. There is only one plan, one great design which shall govern the universe. Mine. And then we get word from the crime families that the droids have ambushed them and that the crime families are threatening to leave. And I kind of want to get to this now as well. Eventually they say like, yeah, we're done with this. We need support, which is why I was kind of confused when we got to season 7 of Clone Wars and the crime families are still kind of with Maul. Like we see that Black Sun and the Pikes are still loyal to him. So I found that kind of weird because I'm like, wait, well, I thought they left him here. So maybe something happened during the time in between where Maul was able to reunite them or something like that, or maybe he promised them something else. I don't know. What's cool about this issue is we get to see Maul versus Grievous again, and we also get to see Talzin versus Sidious. And Talzin is using Dooku's body as like a vessel for her to sort of, you know, be there physically. Eventually, Sidious uses Force Lightning on Dooku's body, and Talzin ends up appearing like in her actual form, and she says that she is whole, which, you know, I did kind of think about it. I'm like, okay, I guess like it's probably more beneficial for Talzin to just be herself instead of in Dooku's body, because like I feel like her powers would be very limited. Now that she's whole and she's her full self, she can demonstrate more power, which I think is proven in this next scene where Talzin is fighting Sidious, because they're both using Force Lightning on each other, and Talzin is matching Sidious's power. So I think one could make an argument that Talzin is just as powerful as Sidious. And honestly, I think she might even be more powerful, because what it ended up taking was Dooku to get back up. By the way, Maul has taken out Grievous at this point, and Dooku is using Force Lightning on Talzin as well. So it ends up taking two people to match Mother Talzin's power. And Talzin ends up going from using Force Lightning to sort of creating like a force field around herself to protect her and to protect Maul, because the Force Lightning is starting to become too much from two of them. This is getting out of hand. Now there are two of them. And we see Maul putting his hand on Talzin being like, take my strength, mother, but it doesn't end up working out that way because they're still too powerful. Sidious and Dooku are too powerful, even with Maul's help. So we end up seeing Grievous get back up, and Talzin realizing at this point, like, okay, this is a losing situation. There's a separatist fleet over the planet. I'm currently holding back Dooku and Sidious's force lightning, and Grievous is now walking towards us. So realizing that this is a lost fight, she tells her son to leave, and obviously Maul refuses because he doesn't want to have to leave his mother. He doesn't want her to die. So Talzin, realizing like, all right, he's not going to go, force pushes Maul away. And it's kind of almost reminiscent of like Kanan holding back the fire in Star Wars Rebels, and then Hera trying to help Kanan, but then, go for Kanan, but Kanan pushes him back. Or I guess you could also make the comparison of Ahsoka force pushing back Ezra when Ezra tries to help her fight Vader. Maul has to get dragged onto the gauntlet ship by Mandalorians because he's like trying to like push his way forward. The boys, are trying to just like drag him onto the ship. And as they're doing so, he has to watch his mother get impaled by Grievous's lightsabers. Maul had to watch his own mother die at the hands of the Sith. The same Sith that also took away his brother. And it's really sad too, because like granted, I wasn't like, like a big Mother Talzin fan or anything like that, but I could understand Maul's frustration with her dying. If I was to put myself in his shoes and I had to watch my mother die like that, like I would be heartbroken as well. So it's just like poor Maul has lost everything at the hands of the Sith. He lost his brother, he lost his mother, and his Shadow Collective is basically in pieces right now because everyone's kind of divided. They're losing all these bases. It's like his whole plan for taking over the galaxy has been ruined. And that's kind of like what Sidious's mission was, not necessarily to kill Maul, but to like break him and make sure that he's no longer a threat. And it's kind of proven right here when Dooku apologizes to Sidious and Sidious says, "No, Count, everything has happened as foreseen. This was a difficult piece to maneuver, but now it's in place. Maul's future has been erased while ours is more certain than it has ever been." And I think it kind of goes back to what I've said in the past when talking about the Clone Wars and talking about how Maul was starting to get a little over his head, so Sidious had to bring him back down to size. And that's exactly what he did here in these comics. Like, Sidious realized, like, okay, Maul can play, building an army. Like, you hear him in that one Clone Wars episode, right? When Obi-Wan says Maul was trying to build an army of pirates. Sidious didn't care. He's like, so let him hang around with the pirates. It doesn't matter. Like, it's of no relevance compared to the separatists. So like, Sidious is like, okay, you can play around with your pirates, Maul, do whatever you want. I don't care. But then when he sees him amassing this army that could potentially threaten his own, he's like, okay, Maul, I let you have your fun for a little bit, but now I gotta remind you, like, who's really in control here. It's really dark. It's just like, oh my gosh, like, you sit there, like, I know for me personally, it's like, I'm trying to sit there rooting for Maul. Like, I want him to, like, get his revenge on Sidious, and, especially for killing his brother. It's like, I want Maul to exact that revenge on Sidious and get payback, but then he's not even able to do that, and he ends up losing his mother in the process. So it's just like, man, Maul just is in this repeated cycle, and it's been said before by Sam Witwer, where he's just like, he's obsessed with the same things, and he's not able to think or see his way out of this cycle. He, as Freddie Prinze Jr. said, he's Sisyphus. He's the one who's cursed for eternity to roll a boulder up a hill, and every time he gets it up to the top, it rolls back down, and he has to start all over again. That is Maul's journey. Every time he's gaining some level of power, he gets knocked down, and that happens all the way until the end of his life in Star Wars Rebels. That is gonna wrap us up here today, you guys, for our discussion of the final issue of this Son of Dathomir comic. I hope you guys have been enjoying, I hope you guys enjoyed this weekly discussions that we've done on this comic. I know it's something that I definitely enjoyed. I wanted to keep the Wednesday discussions going, and being able to do that, talking about my favorite Star Wars comic, I thought was amazing. I really wish that we would get this comic on screen, but I feel like the odds of that happening are very low, but I guess never say never. If Disney is desperate enough for more Star Wars content, maybe they'll go to Dave and be like, hey, like all those seasons of Clone Wars that you had planned before we canceled it on you, could you go back and work on that, please? Honestly, I would love that. But that is going to wrap us up for today, you guys. Make sure you guys like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, share this video around as it really helps support the channel, and I will see you guys next time.